Okay, so I'm back with Michael Richards, and I've asked him just to give us an overview of the sustainable community that you're building, not off someplace in paradise, but right here in the city, right here where you live.
Right. Well, I really ascribe to Kurt Vonnegut, who is one of my favorite novelists. In one of his novels, he makes a statement that just improve your small corner of the universe. And if you really think about it, that's all any of us can do. So we have a manageable amount that I can personally improve are these 5 houses and 2 commercial buildings. But they are sited, we are only 2 blocks from the central business district of this city, which is 2 blocks that way.
2 blocks that way.
Some of the taller downtown buildings. But right in this community, everything we need, we can walk to. We have, for our housing, we have 5 houses, and we have 3 generations of our family that are participating here, children and grandchildren.
Now, when you say you have 5 houses, let's go take a look at those.
Okay.
And show me what your vision for those is, because obviously you're not living in those 5 houses, right?
Right. Well, family members and other close working associates, we estimate 20 to 30 people will be part of Oakleaf Village.
And Oakleaf Village is what you're calling your...
5 houses and the 2 commercial buildings.
Okay, now how do those work together?
Well, the houses are for, if we look at our basic human needs, we need shelter, we need community, because I actually feel that's a human need. It isn't a non-essential need. We need food, so we own vacant lots here that we're converting to community-based agriculture. And the interesting thing is, we share it with all of our neighbors. And
how do you share it with your neighbors?
If they want to help plant, they can help plant. But anybody who's hungry can simply come and eat.
Uh-huh.
And people come and pick food.
Let's go take a look just so we can show it on video.
Sure.
Of your area here.
Yeah, well, this is historically known as the Cherry House, where Cherry Industries, that was in the dairy industry, built the factory across the railroad track.
And this is where you and your family live?
We live here. Then we come to a smaller house here, which is adjacent. And but here we've created a mound. Now, every farmhouse in Iowa used to have what's called a root cellar. Now, a root cellar is you can take all of the edible root crops, which would be cabbage, potatoes, turnips, carrots, squash. Well, squash is on a vine, but it does store okay. And so under this mound, we put an 8-foot long concrete culvert, and then placed the door on the front. So without any energy use, we can keep all of those staple foods secure all winter long. Mm-hmm. Because we're in Iowa, which has extreme cold and extreme heat. So right now we're using it as we rebuilt these houses, we have a lot of tools in here. But in the winter, we can store enough food in here to feed about 20 people.
Nice.
And get through the winter months.
Nice, and then this doubles, as you were explaining, as a playground for your grandkids and for the local kids.
Under the mound is a root cellar. And then the mound itself.
Climbing up the mound here. This is a mountain if you're a kid.
We refer to it as just a natural playscape. So we have 3 levels of the natural playscape. We have sand. Kids can be in there endlessly for hours, making castles, making cakes. If they, younger children, you give them a choice of television or playing in there, they run out here.
Uh-huh.
In fact, kids from the neighborhood all wander in here and play. So, kids like to climb trees, they like to run up hills, and they like to play in the sand. So it's all one playscape.
Beautiful. And then this building over here?
The man who built this house, or lived in it for decades, I'm not sure if he built it, he was a master woodworker. So it's a 2-car garage and a large shop. So we're bringing that back as a woodworking shop. So the houses that we're restoring are for where people live. These outbuildings are where people work. So within the outdoor shops that we have behind the 5 houses, we're putting in carpentry and woodworking shops. Another one over here, we're putting in metalworking. So all the basic things that people need to make tools or furnishings, we will have right in the village. We have the ability to have housing, work, tool making, and food right here with in our own small cluster.
Beautiful. All right, so let's make our way over across the street. And as we go down the Play Mountain here, what's this house here on the left?
Just more housing for families. And, our approach is we're getting all the physical facilities ready first. And some of our family members live here. But other participants, there are intentional communities being built all over the world. And this, could be described as an intentional community. We refer to it as an urban homestead. So we'll have enough space for a few others other than family members to participate also. We see the community as having an open membrane where people in the, like I mentioned, we're in the very middle of a city of 130,000 people. So the second commercial building that we acquired here for many years had been a neighborhood church. And we're setting it up as a town hall and classroom. I think so we're purposefully leaving it just open space so that various classes can go on in here. We think it's important to also participate in our local economy and local political structures. So we'll have town hall meetings in here where we invite city council candidates to come and meet the public, much like town halls have always operated through U.S. history.
And here's where you started your community garden.
We have a stand of tomatoes. We have kale and other leafy vegetables. Up front we have peppers. We have 38 rows of potatoes, which that's probably enough to get 20 people through a winter if there were a difficult circumstance. And then across from the garden we have a large house with 4 bedrooms, and there will be a large community dining room in there where we can seat up to 24 people in a long dining room. But all of these have been built from houses that were slated for demolition. Instead, we've rebuilt them.
Nice, and this one you actually had to save or actually move, didn't you?
We did. There are 2, it's interesting, we're here with an alternate approach to economy and living, and right across the street you can see this large apartment building called the Oak Hill Brickstones, and that's the current business as usual approach. $17 million of our public money, federal, state, and city money, went in and spending hundreds of thousands of dollars per unit to build apartments to then rent to people. So,
$300,000 per apartment unit funded by
all of
the
us.
Public, the taxpayer, and it's a state senator that owns the building, right?
Right. He votes on public funds going into housing, and then as a private developer, he receives those same funds. And even though it's all of our money going in to build them, he owns them as an individual.
So, and let's just let this truck pass here. And you've been active civically, and you've stood up to this guy, and
right.
You've spoken out about that. But you rescued this house from the lot where they would have built.
Well, their approach was just bring in the bulldozer and tear them down, and so I made an arrangement. It was going to cost the same amount of money to demolish these houses so I negotiated with the state senator. He could pay us the same price of demolition to move them. So basically, we got the structural components of 2 houses and a garage for free, But then because they were just going to demolish them, they had no economic value on the property, on the buildings, but they were going to pay $10,000 was going to be what they were going to pay for some demolition. So instead, they paid us $10,000 to move it.
Nice.
So essentially, these houses we got for nothing as a gift. We're putting in about $60,000 of material and sweat equity, but still a lot less than what it would take to build a 2,700 square foot
But
home.
not much cash at all.
No. The interesting thing about
you didn't go into debt to the bank for 30 years to
most
finance
of what you see here we already own outright, and most of what we do we have crews here, carpentry crews, plumbing crews working every day. We pay them as we go, and at the end of 6 months we will have 5 houses, 2 commercial buildings, where there's not a single mortgage. There is no bank that is being paid to purchase them, and there is no bank financing their rehabilitation. We're paying for that just out of cash flow we generate as we go.
Beautiful.
So we'll be free and clear in 6 months.
How does it fit into the little bit bigger area around here?
Well, for 120 years, the whole neighborhood has been called Oak Hill Jackson. Oak Hill is just the name of the general neighborhood, and Jackson was the neighborhood school. We used to have neighborhood schools where all the kids would walk to school and again, building community. And over the last few decades, a lot of urban areas, we've stripped out all the neighborhood schools and bus kids all over town. So no one builds those lasting community neighborhood connections that are really an essential for human survival and to both survive and thrive. So we're recreating that here. In fact, in this white building, we are putting a small school as part of the multi-use of our facilities. The whole village we consider a lifelong learning facility because it's all about learning. We are involving high school youth right now, and they've been involved in rebuilding the houses. They've been involved in planting the garden. So, but we learn from them as much as they learn from us. So it's a lifelong intergenerational learning facility.
Beautiful. And then across the street, what's happening here? And tell us about the markets and the cafe and the importance of that.
Oakleaf Village is just 1 block away from an area that has been fully restored that is a cluster of historic buildings that's called the New Bohemia Art and Cultural District. So we have a lot of creative entrepreneurs, we have a lot of artists, we have visionaries, and that's our larger neighborhood. So I really see it as concentric circles. At the center of our concentric circle is Oakleaf Village. We then are within the Oak Hill neighborhood, and part of the Oak Hill neighborhood is the New Bohemia Art and Cultural District. Now, probably one of the more significant things about the New Bohemia Art and Cultural District, we own an historic building there where we're having a neighborhood coffee house and cafe, all based on local fresh food. And the reason why that works so well is we're right across the street from this large kind of rust-colored structure, which this is a classic example of repurposing. That had been a warehouse for a steel mill. So we're out of old economy to new economy. It's now a year-round market for local farmers, for local entrepreneurs. There will be 100 different stalls in there for the local economy, providing produce, fish, meat, year-round. So what we can't produce here on our own small gardens, we can literally walk 1 block away and access all the local food from about a 4-county area at the year-round market.
Beautiful.
All within walking distance.